I invited on the show this morning State Representative Geoff Diehl. Of course, he's a Republican from Whitman, and he is the co-chair of the Trump campaign in Massachusetts to talk about these final hours before the third and final debate. Representative Diehl, good morning to you.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for your audience for listening. I think we're very close, like you said, to the election. I think this is going to be a big moment in U.S. history, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right, the debate tonight. What needs to happen?
I think Trump just needs to do what he's been doing, which is making his case not only as to the policy that he supports, but also why he thinks that Hillary Clinton, based on her poor performance as Secretary of State and really lack of any major success in all these years in office or being visible to the public, is not going to lend itself to helping America turn the corner and do better with jobs, foreign policy, everything that we need to become a more successful country. And we're certainly in a morass right now. And I think that it's a change election, and I think Donald Trump truly is going to change not just U.S. policy and all that, but he's also going to change the political system by getting rid of a lot of people in both parties who are no longer listening to the people of America.
You would agree that the polls reflect that it has not been a good month for Donald Trump. What does he do to reverse that?
Well, there's been some polls that have been put out by groups that I think have an agenda, but let's look at some of the more steady polls, the ones that have been tracking for a long time. Rasmussen has Trump down by 1, and LA Times poll still has Hillary Clinton very close. LA Times has Donald Trump down by up by 1.
Yeah, up by 1.
And Rasmussen has Hillary Clinton up by 2. So if it's a 1 to 2 point basically polling with those tracking polls, I'd say that it's pretty much a virtual tie. I think tonight's debate will do a good job of helping Donald Trump regain the momentum, and I think that heading into the last three weeks or so, this is exactly where you want to be. You want to have that momentum hitting you at the right time for November 8th.
Okay, and Project Veritas was obviously, to all our WMX listeners who may or may not be aware, and I think most are aware, the suggestion is that there was an organized effort by those connected with the Democratic National Committee and perhaps even the Clinton campaign to, disrupt Trump rallies, Republican rallies, and that, in fact, there's even some, I guess, checks that are now showing up that were paid to people to show up to disrupt these rallies. What do you make of this, Geoff? And will we hear this from Trump tonight?
Yeah, I think you're definitely going to hear about it. I really wasn't familiar with the term bird dogging when it came to politics. I always thought it was more of a hunting term, but evidently that's the strategy that's been used by the Democratic Party and by activists that support Democrat candidates, and that's what we're finding now. There's actually paid people. People have been paid on the Clinton that are Clinton supporters to organize violent demonstrations, Chicago being one of the most notable. I know we also saw Bill Ayers, the person who was claims responsibility for the founding of Obama's first campaign for office, and who also was involved with bombing a police station back in the 60s and in the 70s. And so you see a lot of violent activist Democrat organizations that have been for the entire campaign trying to make Donald Trump look like his campaign is violent, and it is not only insulting, but now we're finding at least there's evidence to show that this is their modus operandi, which is to create violent incidents and then try to pin it on Republicans. And I think Donald Trump will clearly make that a point of tonight's debate.
Does it make a difference to the undecided voter that this was going on?
I think there's a lot of people who just don't necessarily know, in depth what's been going on with politics overall. They just kind of hear things like, I don't know if you remember, but there was an attempt to villainize, folks, Tea Party folks back in 2010, saying they spit on people and all that. That came to be debunked. And now there's the attempt to say that the Donald Trump campaign is full of people that, are violent and all that. The truth is, it was the Clinton supporters that have been violent. I think they're going to wake up to see, after tonight's debate, they're going to wake up tomorrow to actually see in the press the fact that Donald Trump is now probably going to call on Hillary Clinton to disavow those supporters. I would hope that's what he does at the debate tonight.
I did enjoy yesterday when Trump used the phrase that he's pledging to drain the swamp. I guess the newest thing that Trump said yesterday was he came out in favor of term limits. Where are you on term limits? Where do you think the American people are on term limits? Why is he talking about this?
I love it. I love that it's becoming a national discussion. I know people whisper about it all the time, but they never want to do it. I know some politicians will say that elections are the term limits. You know, people make their mind up and can vote you out if they want you out. The fact of the matter is that special interests love elections being held infrequently. And this gets a little in the weeds, but I want to tell you, people may not know this. A state rep, a state senator, a U.S. congressperson have to run every 2 years for re-election. The only people that have longer terms are either the president at 4 years or a U.S. senator at 6 years. And every time you have more and more elections, I mean, if you make elections every 2 years, for example, you're going to end up making politicians beholden to special interests, because you just can't keep going back to the well of the people and asking for more money every 2 years to stay in office. So I like the idea of extending a term to possibly 3 to 4 years for lower-ranking positions, and then just having 2 to 3 terms. That way, you give them a politician enough time to make a difference in office, and not have to spend every other year doing a re-election bid, and then just 1.5 years on policy. I think it's a great idea. I think Donald Trump is again the right champion at the right time to push this forward.
Talking with State Representative and Republican Geoff Diehl from Whitman. He's co-chair of the Trump campaign here in Massachusetts, talking about the third and final debate as we move through this election season. Continuing on the term limit discussion here, Representative Diehl, it would take a constitutional amendment to impose term limits. And I mean, and most people say, that is a long, arduous process, and the likelihood of success is slim, given the fact that the people who have to vote yes are the ones that you would be limiting. So what do you think the likelihood is that this would ever even happen, or is this just jargon?
Well, look, I think both political parties right now are being sort of split down the middle. The Republican Party is being split by people who are Trump, who are change agents, Trump supporters, and in the Democrat Party, you've got Bernie Sanders supporters that are change agents that weren't necessarily very supportive, and still I don't think are, of Hillary Clinton. So I'll tell you, if these parties can rework themselves into true, representative people, representing the people, and we start electing congressional members in the House and Senate for D.C. that actually get on board with this type of reform and this type of change to the Constitution as far as term limits, I think we could see something change, and I hope we do. And I think it's a discussion that, again, only Donald Trump would actually be willing to take on with a national stage, which is, again, why he is such an impressive person when it comes to what he's willing to talk. Is the real talk that we all think, but nobody ever talks about. He actually puts into words as a part of his platform.
With regards to all the WikiLeaks emails that have come out, specifically most of them have to do with Hillary Clinton and her campaign, which do you sort out as being the most damaging to her?
Well, look, there's so many to choose from. The fact of the matter is that I think that showing collusion between the State Department and the FBI to try to protect Hillary Clinton is one of the most egregious. There's now linking evidence that a quid pro quo was arranged so that they would reclassify documents that Hillary said weren't on being sent from her server, and to try to protect her from indictment. I think that is something beyond Watergate. I mean, we are talking about information that's coming out in the thousands of emails that, back in the day with Nixon, there was, 18 and a half minutes of tape that was gone. We actually have the 18 and a half minutes of then some on Hillary Clinton as to what she and her campaign have done to manipulate the government to her benefit for years now. So I don't think there's anyone you can point to. But I'll tell you what's even more disturbing is the fact that our Secretary of State now, it looks like he has worked with Ecuador and their UK embassy to shut off information from WikiLeaks.
I know. Shocking, huh?
It's really actually astounding.
Yeah.
I mean, Ecuador is saying now that their policy of non-intervention in the affairs of other countries and they don't want to interfere in electoral processes, that doesn't apply necessarily to a guest in their embassy, Julian Assange, who has now lost internet access, so he can't receive or send information with these WikiLeaks files that are coming out. And it's really amazing. I mean, the Secretary of State's office is denying it, but we have proven time and time again under the Obama administration that we've been involved in foreign affairs for quite a while. The Iranian elections, we were knee deep. We sent the State Department sent $350,000 under Obama to One Voice, a group that was trying to oust Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We've been involved with the overthrow of trying to overthrow Bashir al-Assad in Syria, and the Muammar Gaddafi in Libya was overthrown by the Obama administration. So we have been involved in other countries' elections for a long time in their government, and now the State Department's claiming no, we had nothing to do with shutting off Julian Assange, and John Kerry saying we had nothing to do with shutting off the information coming in that is damaging to his candidate, to his party. And I think it's outrageous, and I think that there needs to be more investigation on exactly what happened there.
Representative Diehl, you filled in on this program. You filled in on this radio station. You've been a guest host, right? Right. Okay. Have you had occasion to talk to Bill from Braintree, our Hillary supporter?
Probably not. Since that day. I don't
All right. Well, he's Bill from Braintree's on the phone. He's a good guy. He's just lost his way. So I thought, Bill, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, Bill. I have State Representative Geoff Diehl on the line with us as well. He's co-chair of the Trump campaign, and you're calling in. Do you have a question for Representative Diehl?
Well, yeah, yes and no. I mean, I listened to what he said about, the polls. He read two polls that are pretty skewed. Every other poll, and the state polls, have Hillary up by an average of like 6 points now. I mean, I don't know why he's telling his people out there that these polls are close, because they're not. And I mean, the same thing happened when with Mitt Romney. The stuff was told that everything was close to the last minute, and Mitt Romney is looking for a win, and he got nothing.
Okay, what say you, Representative Diehl?
Well, you know what? I remember Ronald Reagan was way down behind Clinton with 2 weeks to go. Sorry, not Clinton. With Jimmy Carter, years ago, and he came back to win. Now, I also remember Scott Brown being down in the polls by 13 points with just 14 days to go over Martha Coakley. Now, that's Massachusetts, but I guess, Bill, polls are totally accurate in your opinion right now. I mean, there's no way that they move, especially with 3 weeks to go. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, but I'm telling you, your polls aren't accurate either. That's number one. And
they're not my polls. It's the LA. I'm sorry, it's the LA Times poll. First of all, no friend of Donald Trump, by the way.
Every day. They don't move. They're the same people every day.
Bill, do you believe that there's an undercurrent, that there are people out there that will vote for Donald Trump that aren't saying they will right now?
Actually, I don't. They've been looking for them. They don't. There isn't any. He's done with every group.
All right.
Women. He's done with educated women. I mean, I don't know if if this is just fairy tale land. I don't know.
All right, Bill. Thank you. Thanks very much for joining us. Go ahead, Jeff. You're still with us.
That people should look at. So Mitt Romney only won 5% of the black vote back in 2012. Right now, Donald Trump, just a week or so ago, was polling at 24% with the black community across the country. So I'll tell you what, there is a new wave of voters. I'm sure Bill isn't in touch with them, because these are people that are union workers that are sick and tired of having Hillary Clinton and previously her husband Bill promote trade deals like NAFTA, like TPP, that are going to hurt the American workers for the long term, take more jobs, more companies out of our country. So I'll tell you what, I know where the polls are saying right now. I also think that there's room for movement in them, and I also think that they're closer than what Bill's trying to present. And I do see a surge towards the end in supporting Donald Trump, because I think it's just undefendable what's coming out about Hillary Clinton and WikiLeaks, and that is just the surface is just being scratched now.
Right. Okay. What about the other side of the page there, the sexual assault allegations against Donald Trump? Do you believe them? How should voters digest this information? What do you think about it?
Look, I don't ever want to be in a situation where you doubt what somebody who's claiming physical assault or something like that is saying. But as I've heard from quite a few people, Donald Trump is been well known to have quite a bit of money for decades. With 3 weeks to go before the election, these accusers come out and are trying to make a case that this happened and by the way, several of them have been proven to be either tied to the Clinton campaign or have actually asked for Donald Trump, after they claim this assault happened, asked for Donald Trump to appear at their places of business that they own. It is remarkable, the coordinated effort to try to get a wave of people who had all this opportunity for in some case decades to do something and haven't. So I mean, look, I think Donald Trump has spoken to it. Obviously, as far as his lewd comments, he has made an apology to the American people, to his family, and said that that was a while ago, and he certainly is a different person. I think Donald Trump has put the issue to bed, but I'm sure we'll be hearing more about it tonight at the debate.
State Representative Geoff Diehl, Republican from Whitman, co-chair of the Trump campaign. Thanks very much for joining us today in the Short Sleeve Report.
Thanks, Joe. Take care.